What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Uh, I'm trying to get back into going live. This is actually um, me, Mondale Robinson, and I haven't been live in a while using technology, so I'm trying to stream to multiple platforms and seeing if it's working. So bear with me as I check and make sure that I'm live on all platforms. Um, if you see me live on one of the platforms, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, please send a comment right now and let me know that I'm live. So I can start talking my political trash. So if you see it, let me know, let me know while I test this out and try to figure out if I'm live, make sure I'm alive. I know I'm alive. Let's make sure I am live. It's the first time I've done this by myself, and I think I might be live. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start talking my trash. If you see me and you want to comment to let me know that you think that you see me, that would be helpful. It's an interesting moment right now we find ourselves in politically. For those of us who are concerned with Black lives, and in this case particularly Black men. So being that it's 27 days out before the election, and I was born on the 27th day of the fourth month, I figured it'd be a perfect day for me to start talking about a few topics, mainly the Republican Party, Herschel Walker, um, the Democratic Party, Kanye West, Supreme Court, racism, and also, of course, Black men. All of these topics may seem disjointed, with the exception of the two political parties, but I think there's a through line that we need to talk about and address as it pertains to how our current conversation is being how the current political conversation in this country is being had about all of these topics and what's absent in all of these topics. I think it's interesting to start with. I always tell people it's better to pull judge the plank in your eye before you talk about your neighbor's speck. So I think the best place to start is with the political parties, mainly the Democratic Party, being that I am a super left wing Democrat, super progressive, and also I claim that party as mine because I know the power of the Democratic Party rests within the Black community. The largest voting blocks percentage wise in this country for Democratic candidates, progressive ideas, is Black women, and second to that is Black men. Or I should say, second to them is Black men. The problem is, um, the Democratic Party does not seem to understand what that means, how they court their base, and what's necessary if we are to win national elections, federal elections, statewide in most of the states in this country. And I say that because the Democratic Party is still operating as if they are a party that should be catering to conservative leaning white women. This strategy was successful for Bill Clinton when he ran for president, but it's not been successful since then, meaning Democratic parties base a majority of voters for Democratic parties percentage wise is not, um, not at all white people. Yet and still, we see Democratic Party spending majority of its funds, um, projecting majority of its resources towards winning over this elusive white vote again, as if they have an opportunity or a chance to do such a thing. Um, all of their efforts had failed them, and when they do this, they lose elections. They lose elections big. Um, uh, if we are to get to the nitty gritty of this, consider this: the Party's base, percentage wise, the biggest state in this country is Mississippi. Mississippi is the blackest state in this country, yet and still, the Democratic Party fails to invest in Mississippi like they do some of the whitest states, like Iowa. If the Democratic Party would have spent the last, and I know some of the people who've heard me speak have heard me say this before, that the Democratic Party has spent a portion of the resources they spent in Iowa over the last 40 years in Mississippi. Mississippi wouldn't be a red state, it wouldn't be a purple state, it'll be a deep blue state. But they choose to listen to white consultants who are disconnected from black voters, specifically black men voters, and they're not from regions or areas where majority of black people live. They're white coastal voters that they tend to lift up. They being the Democratic Party and its auxiliaries and its candidates tend to lift up for all the wrong reasons. Those reasons being their pedigree as it pertains to school, or their connection to somebody in the party in the higher up realm, not because they have a proven track record of turning out the Democratic Party's base, black voters. This is done at the behest of victories for Democratic candidates, specifically those running in states where black people are a majority of, or a significant portion of the population. This is extremely important this cycle because the Democratic Party, all of its auxiliaries, its pollsters are running around talking about politics in 2022 as if it's politics any other time before this. What's unique about 2022 is 2022 presents us with an election where baby boomers, a midterm election where baby boomers are no longer the dividing or the driving force as it pertains to voters in this country. What's significant about baby boomers not being the driving force in our politics anymore? Well, one thing is baby boomers was a generation that was overwhelmingly white. I think maybe 80% or more were white people. And it was the largest voting block or largest generation until two things happened. Those two things were millennials and Zers. Both of those generations are came after baby boomers and after Zers, and both of those generations are larger than baby boomers generation, and both of those generations are blacker and browner than baby boomers. Yet and still, we're still running elections with age-old adages that do not apply, meaning, oh, the party in power is likely to lose elections. Well, that was a thing when baby boomers were controlling the political discourse. That is not the case anymore. So any losses that the Democratic Party, I should say, any losses that we take this cycle, it's because of the party, its auxiliary, and the candidates they chose. Because we didn't have to lose if we would have listened to the issues that were most important to millennials and Zers, if we would have paid attention by gaining or prioritizing their needs, their issues, not just in this election cycle, but in how we were governing. If we weren't playing, passive with these issues, if we weren't acting as if these two demographics haven't showed us in the past midterm cycle 2018 that they can outperform baby boomers or vote on par with baby boomers when their issues are prioritized. But the Democratic Party has failed to do this. We are seeing candidates spend more money and a larger portion of their budget on advertising. This is very transactional. It does very little, if anything, to increase or expand the electorate, especially as it pertains to these younger demographics who are dead set on making sure that people understand if their issues aren't prioritized, if they're not seeing themselves in elections, then they won't participate. This is a failure of the Democratic Party at an epic scale when we consider how they're not targeting young voters with messaging that is culturally competent. And it's the same case for black men, but we'll talk about black men a little later. That's where I am with the Democratic Party. I'm very disgusted that we find ourselves having the same conversations over and over. So I'm a little upset about that, and I'm also a little hurt that we find ourselves, dealing with this right now when we didn't have to be at all. So what I do know though is we could easily have won or could win still possibly as many elections as we may lose this cycle. I think that message may be a little muddy because I was stuttering and also because people might not understand what I'm saying. I'm saying the Democratic Party has inflicted its own wounds for 2022 by using a playbook that worked in the 90s and the early 2000s that's no longer applicable to how we should play politics considering the demographic shifts and also recent voting trends from younger voters and black men when they are prioritized. This is not a selfish thing on the part of young voters or black men, but it is to say that we will not be ignored anymore. We will not. There's no such thing as blind loyalty as it pertains to political parties in this country anymore, with the exception of white voters. We see overwhelmingly white voters will support Republican candidates at any cost, i.e. Donald Trump, i.e. Herschel Walker, i.e. Dr. Oz, and the list goes on and on. And I know that list goes on and on because right now in the Republican Party, yeah, y'all, I'm shifting to Republicans. Right now, what we're seeing a massive shift in in should I say it? Yeah, we're seeing a massive shift. Excuse me, I got stuck there. Uh, and in this party that's supposed to be the patriotic party, or the Christian right, or the evangelical right. And it's somebody should tell the Republican Party that their slip is showing. And I mean that because uh, when you look at candidates like Donald Trump, who basically, not even basically, who is directly responsible for January the 6th, an attack on not just police officers. Yeah, police officers was murdered. Not just the Capitol, but democracy in itself. Like, so this party that swear they are all about this country, the cops of this country protect the blue, or Blue Lives Matter, whatever their slogan was. These are the same. This is the same party that is dead set on pretending that patriotism is not synonymous with white supremacy, because that's what they were fighting for on January the 6th, as they sought to kill the vice president, kill the incoming vice president, and also the Speaker of the House, and any other candidate that was not, pleading oath and loyalty to Donald Trump. This is a fact. The Republican Party has found itself irrelevant as it pertains to the majority of Americans. Those that are serious about what it means to be American, those that are serious about what it means to be a country that is set on having a healthy democracy. America's democracy is not healthy. It's damn near dead if it's not already on its path. We see ourselves in a mist because of the Republican Party ineptness, its inability to put forth a platform that is inclusive, and an inability to run candidates or hold their party accountable for things that are real. So when we look at ourselves at this moment collectively, part of the failure of our democracy has to be blamed significantly on Republicans, and those that are elected, those that are in power, and those that are also calling themselves Republican and defending Donald Trump's action, and also those who attacked the Capitol on January the 6th. All of this is factual. This is not me speaking as a Democratic partisan. This is me speaking about what it looks like. Had January the 6th happened in any other country, in Latin America, in Africa, America and Americans would have had so much to say about the destabilizing effect of January the 6th to that countries, or those countries' democracy or forms of government. But because it was white people uh, attacking our capital, we have not spoken truthfully in a harsh way. Black people in this country tend to stand up and protest when police officers murder black bodies. And we get called everything from thugs, rioters. We get told to go back to wherever we're from. We get told that our countries are shithole countries, and we get called vandals. And there's never, or very rarely, is there justice for what happens, the loss of life. That's not what happened on January the 6th. What happened on January the 6th was a lawful transfer of power because of majority of Americans voted to unelect Donald Trump, and white people could not swallow that, so they denied the election results, and they were willing to kill elected officials in this country to sustain that. That is not democracy. That is fascism. That is dictatorships. And America and Americans, white Americans mainly, were and are to blame for that. And the reason I feel like that the charges that have been levied against them, I should say the lack of charges, and also the lack of action, and the lack of disdain for these actions, is because this was a white mob. Much like, and definitely not disconnected from those mobs that used to gather to watch black people be hung in southern states and all over this country, but mainly in southern states during Jim Crow and Reconstruction and right after slavery. We know that these people used to advertise these mobs in the newspapers of their time, and they would go to town centers and cut body parts off of black people and take them home as souvenirs. Well, the same thing happened, less with the physical part, but The hanging of American democracy happened on January 6th because of Republicans' quietness of Donald Trump's 4 years as president and things they let him get away with. They even created new words. They wouldn't call the past president, a liar. They would just say he's telling the untruth. They were soft on his antics, and his antics led to this violence and the death of cops at the Capitol on January 6th. That's a fact. There's something else of an anomaly that has that the Republican Party should take credit for. And that something else is Herschel Walker. Not Herschel Walker per se as a candidate, but Herschel Walker and what he represents as dumb candidates. Dumb candidates. And what I mean by dumb candidates is just that. Herschel Walker is a fucking idiot. He has no idea about what politics are. He has no idea about the issues he speak on, yet and still he's been taken serious, and he's within striking distance of becoming a United States Senator because of the silliness of the Republican Party. Herschel Walker is out here for the past year or so talking trash about black men not accepting responsibility with their parenting. Even though there's data to support that black men spend more time with their kids than any other men in this country, he's still, dancing in these tropes that do nothing but to seek to demonize black men. Also, we see him in his latest debacle. He is the black man that he's so angry at. He is the one that didn't raise any of his kids. He was the one that was having affairs on every one of the women that he was with if he wasn't beating them. And I'm not talking about proverbial beating. This man literally pulled guns, assaulted many of his women from his past, and also threatened others. On top of that, he's out here acting as if he's a staunch proponent or staunch opponent of abortion, when we see that he's probably paid for at least 2 abortions from past women that he was dealing with. And even when we have bank information to prove that he sent money to pay for the abortions, he's still looking in the cameras lying in front of crowds of conservatives who claim to be Christians as they clap and support him because he's a Republican. And better than that, he's a Donald Trump Republican. And to them, that's all you need to be. You can be a liar. You can be a murderer. You can be Donald Trump. But if you support Trump, that's all it's required for this Republican Party. And it's that level of tribalism that will kill American democracy. It's that level of tribalism that allows 30% of this country's population still to believe that a duly elected president is not supposed to be president because the election was stolen. They still continue to send so much money. They, being Republican supporters, still send so much money to Donald Trump, even as he used that money to do nothing but benefit himself, his family, and also make sure he can afford the most expensive lawyers in this country to defend him against the many lawsuits that he's currently facing. That's where the Republican Party finds itself. So on one hand, we have the Democratic Party that ignores its base. On the other hand, we have the unhealthy Republican Party, that refuses to hold its candidates and itself responsible or accountable. And because of that, democracy in this country is drowning. Dare I say, has already drowned. And we're in a position where we must defend democracy at all costs. But how do we do that when we have 2 dysfunctional parties? One which chooses to ignore its base and the issues most important to its base, and then another party which is flat out racist and also platformless. The Republican Party does not have a platform but for to support candidates screaming whatever Trump needs them to scream, which leads me to people screaming whatever Trump needs them to scream. And it lands me flat on Kanye West. This past couple weeks, Kanye West has been on the dumbest tirade of his tirades. And that's saying a lot. And I know people are going to say, oh, he's sick, he has bipolar, you shouldn't be talking about him. I call BS on that. Bipolar does not require you or does not afford you to sacrifice or sell out your value system. I know plenty of people who are functioning as normal humans with a bipolar. What we know is we need to stop demonizing mental health issues and saying that Kanye's West behavior is a direct result of his sickness. It is not. There are highs and lows, absolutely, that are associated with being bipolar. What Kanye West is doing is being a grifter. Is what he is. The idea that this man would not say Black Lives Matter, and then run a fashion show and require all of his models to wear White Lives Matter shirt, a slogan that the Southern Poverty Law Center says is a hate slogan, is a slogan filled with hate used by white supremacists and their supporters, is absolutely disgusting and is not related to his sickness, other than his sickness to be a supporter of white supremacy. His coonery is absolutely disgusting. Kanye West does not get a pass because he has bipolar syndrome. Kanye West needs to be held accountable by the people closest to him and those in power that can shut down, his platforms. Adidas, Balenciaga, I hope I said that right, and other people that give him a platform. The music companies, the people on his record label that happen to be black, that are suffering because of what it means to be black in America. All of them need to hold this man accountable for his lack of attention to what it means to be black in this country. This is not his first rant. Kanye West did this and back in 2015, I think, when he was sitting, or 2017, when he was sitting talking to TMZ, and he said slavery for 400 years by black people was a choice. It was disgusting then, and people didn't cancel Kanye when they should have. So he wanted, the biggest flack he's getting is because of what he said about Jewish people, and I think that's right. I know that's right. Our Jewish brothers and sisters are targeted just because of who they are, and I think we should acknowledge that as black people, we have a long history of Jewish people supporting our fight, and we owe it to them to support them. But we need our Jewish brothers and sisters to also be on fire when Kanye West show up the way he shows up. We didn't see Twitter blocking Kanye West when he put his White Lives Matter shirts on Twitter. It wasn't until he said something disgusting about our Jewish brothers and sisters that they blocked him. They should have blocked him when White Lives Matter shirts popped up on his timeline, because we know that's hate speech, and we need the world to be on fire about black suffering at the hands of Kanye West, Republican parties, and also this America in general. And until we see that parity, it's not okay for us just to scream when our houses are on fire. We have to scream when inequity is happening to any and all of us. It's the only road to freedom. It is the only road to freedom, and we must acknowledge that. We must acknowledge that. Jumping from Kanye West to another idiot, Killer Mike. Killer Mike is running around here talking about Brian Kemp, who is a Republican candidate for governor in Georgia, had a wonderful week last week as it pertains to black people. Killer Mike is so disconnected from the black community that is absolutely disgusting. I will say two things about Killer Mike that must be acknowledged when we're talking about him in a political context. First, black people did not give Killer Mike a platform to speak politically. That came from a white senator from Vermont, which is one of the whitest states in this country. That was Bernie Sanders, who made Killer Mike one of his advisors or whatever he was for his 2016 campaign. And that birthed his political career. For us, Killer Mike has never been a spokesman for black people. He don't speak for black people. He was raised by a family of police officers, and he oftentimes is absolutely wrong about important issues as it pertains to the black community. His stance is very capitalistic. He cares more about money and how he sees himself as relevant, and it's always, or more times than not, associated with money. Money will not get black people free. We can pretend that money is the answer. It is absolutely not. We need people say you can't legislate away hate. You absolutely can't. But what you can do with legislation is you can make it criminal to be hate. You can make it criminal to have institutional racism. You can make it criminal to have disproportionate laws, or laws that affect black people in a disproportionate manner. And that is what I care more about. I don't care if racists love me or like me. I do care if it's illegal for them to discriminate at work against black people. I do care if it's illegal for them to discriminate um, in police forces, in the policing of black bodies. I absolutely care about all of that. I do care if it's illegal for them to show biases against black pain in the hospitals. Not just legislation, but legislation with teeth, meaning that people that are in power are pushing forth and making sure that these laws are being followed and abide by. So yeah, I care about all of that. Killer Mike seems to forget that money will not get black people free, because rich black people are still black people when cops pull up behind them. Period. Trick Daddy said it best. It don't matter if you're driving a Lincoln or whatever you're driving, you still a N-word to them. And that's a fact. That's a fact. Kind of leaving the personalities, but moving to the next topic I want to talk about, y'all. The Supreme Court. Yo, we are being trolled by a Supreme Court that is completely out of touch with America's majority of its population. First of all, the Supreme Court is way too old. We need term limits on our Supreme Court. It is time out on this lifetime appointment to these white people who are 3 and 4 generations removed from majority of voters. And Clarence Thomas, I count you in the white vote. And the reason I count that black man in the white vote is because his policies. Whiteness is not just about the race. It is about the ideology that white people are supreme, and the policies that are put in place to protect the minority populations from the majority should not be danced upon lightly, and he tends to do that very well. So yeah, this old generation that is completely removed from majority of these young voters, 3 and 4 generations removed from them, should not be dictating the law of the land. It is time for them to move on, and we find ourselves in a time where our Supreme Court is damn near the most disgusting Supreme Court. I would say there's 2 or 3 more that are worse than this one. The Plessy decision was absolutely disgusting. Dred Scott decision was absolutely disgusting. But this Supreme Court is not far behind it, looking to, well, they've already stripped women's right to choose, creating new laws as it pertains to. I shouldn't say creating new laws. I should say creating new precedents as it pertains to the voting rights. If we have a voting rights left after the Supreme Court, I would be super surprised. Y'all, this is where we find ourselves politically right now in America. I find that I happen to be, a part of one of the most, if not the most vulnerable demographic. That's black men. And I say that black men are one of the most vulnerable demographics because we have the shortest lives of anybody, and not just in this country, but in North America. We have the worst healthcare outcomes. We are the only demographic that can be born into a well-to-do or middle-class family, and more likely in our lives will experience poverty. We are the only demographic. Well, I should say we are the most over-policed demographic in this country. We are the most over-sentenced. We are we have the highest discrepancy between us and our white counterparts than any other demographic in this country as it pertains to economy, the economics of being American, especially black man American. So my point of view on this day, 27 days away from the 2022 midterm election, we find ourselves in a space where we are obligated to do more. And I'm not coming from this go vote or you don't care, or go vote or you're lazy. That's not where I'm coming from. I'm saying we are obligated to do more in the terms of getting rid of incumbents who don't look like our point of view, don't look like, and I'm not talking about race, I'm talking about issues that are important to us. As black men, we can unelect or we can elect people who look like us politically. And that means they support progressive ideas as it pertains to how we police in this country, how we fund public education in this country, how we provide medical coverage for people in this country, how we ensure that our sisters, wives, cousins, aunts, friends can and cannot choose what medical procedures are best for them and their life. And we on the sideline, or us sitting on the sideline, don't really do justice to our communities if we choose to sit out in moments that are as important as this election cycle. Um, dare I say, this is the most important election of our life. And I know people use that so much, I sound like the boy who cried wolf. But I'm telling you, um, the people, the people that we are about to elect or unelect in this cycle will have a major role to play in the 2024 presidential election. And they are setting themselves up, they being the 202 people who denied the 2020 presidential election that are running for election right now. Some of them governors, some of them for the United States Senate, and other places that are extremely crucial to who will determine what the power of our elections in 2024 will be, are or are not going to win elections based on our actions as black men. I say, y'all, at the 30-minute mark right now, let's make sure that we are saying exactly how we feel about this election, and how we show up to ensure that we as black men are heard, that we will not sit idle and let our communities be treated with such disdain and neglect. I'm out, y'all. Again, this is Mondale Robinson, and this has just been Uncovered. Peace.